Well, good evening, everyone. Uh, so today I was rereading John Donne. Now, this is, of course, a part of the English optionals paper for the civil services. So I was rereading John Donne because I'm saying rereading, of course, because I have already read John Donne in my bachelor's, and I believe in my master's as well. So of course I know what to expect with John Donne. However, my memory being so excellent that it gives me the pleasure of being able to experience literature again as if for the very first time. So now the fact that my memory has helped me not to remember what I've read of John Donne, I had the opportunity to read John Donne again. Now the poems that are in the syllabus for John Donne are the following poems: Cannonization, Holy Sonnets, Death Be Not Proud, The Good-Morrow, To His Mistress Going to Bed, and The Relic. Now, John Donne, of course, had two personas. When he was young, he seemed to be a womanizer. He seemed to be very flirtatious. And his poems reflect that side of him. And he went by the name Jack Donne, Jack being the name of a younger man. So he donned that persona. But later on in life, he, if I'm not mistaken, I think he becomes a priest, or when he becomes a devotional man, when he becomes a more meditative man, a man of God, he becomes Dr. John Donne. So that is the more contemplative, meditative poem that he writes. And I think one of those poems is Death Be Not Proud, a wonderful sonnet. It ends in an oxymoron: death, thou shalt die. And it's a very powerful ending. However, the rest of John Donne, I believe, is very interesting, especially if you are able to understand what is being written. A couple of things. Of course, I'm not going to give a full review of John Donne. That is not the intention of this video. The intention of this video, what this video aims to do, is to give my so-called first opinions, my immediate opinions on reading a particular author or a poet. So my reaction to reading John Donne was that I felt very, very embarrassed to read them, in a sense that I was blushing while reading them, because certain lines are very, very explicit and evocative in, of course, a roundabout way. So, for example, I think the most evocative lines are from the poem To His Mistress Going to Bed. And in the second stanza, this is what he writes: License my roving hands and let them go. Before, behind, between, above, below. Now, if you have understood what those lines means, then you understand that the second line, which I just read, takes on a very naughty connotation. Not only that, in the stanza following this particular stanza, is a vivid description of the undressing scene which follows. I will not read all the lines, but I will read some of the lines, and it goes like this: Full nakedness, all joys are due to thee, as souls unbodied, bodies unclothed must be, to taste whole joys. Then I'll skip a few lines. Then, since that I may know, as liberally as to a midwife shew thyself, cast all, yea, this white linen hence, there is no penance due to innocence. And then, To teach thee I am naked first. Why then, what needest thou have more covering than a man? So, a very vivid sort of image he creates in his poems. Now, this is to his mistress going to bed. Now, the other poem which I found, now I might be misinterpreting it, of course, but in the poem "The Good-Morrow," there are in the final stanza, the third stanza, in the third line, he writes, "Where can we find two better hemispheres without sharp north, without declining west?" Of course, he might be talking about him and his beloved being two different hemisphere, two different things coming together. Of course, that could be one of the meanings, probably the literal meaning. But the description of this particular line, where can we find two better hemispheres? Now, you have to understand, hemispheres, I think here, can also mean a certain part of the human anatomy. And he uses words, he uses these very academic words like hemisphere to talk about these particular organs of the body. Without sharp north, and I take this line to mean sharpness and north, to mean youth and perkiness, and without declining west, that I suppose I take it to mean sagginess that comes with old age. So in this particular context that I've just given you, in that context, these lines, where can we find two better hemispheres without sharp north, without declining west, takes on a very different meaning. And that meaning sort of becomes very, very explicit and naughty, which is in line with the way John Donne of this particular time, Jack Donne, I should rather say, writes. Yes, the other poems are so far all right. These are, of course, very, very romantic, and I use the word in a general sense. Very romantic, very evocative poems. So these two particular poems, To His Mistress Going to Bed and The Good-Morrow, I found them to be very erotic, very evocative and explicit in the imagery that John Donne tries to draw. Of course, this is just one aspect of John Donne. And this is unique if you take a look, if you sort of remember the context that John Donne is writing in. He's writing in this sort of medieval, chivalric, romantic sort of context in which the lover or the beloved, which is the female, is idealized, is sort of pedestalized and seen as a divine figure. And in that sort of pedestalization of the woman, here comes John Donne, who is not pedestalizing, or he's not seeing his beloved as a divine figure, but sees her as flesh and blood, like himself, and sort of rebels against that idealization by drawing very graphic, very corporeal, very flesh and blood images in his poems. And that, I think, was something that really struck me the first time I read. So that was my first review of John Donne. Have a good day.